Hey, Bible in a Year family. I feel like I've done this episode at another time in my life. It's episode 159 of Bible in a Year. We're looking at Psalm 38 to 44 today with our good friend Jason Upton again. Gonna focus in on, hey brother, gonna focus in on Psalm 40 today, guys. Hey, just a reminder, subscribe if you would, like, comment, hit the subscription bell or your notifications bell so you know when we post these. But this has been a lot of fun, and we're going to have more fun again today. So come on inside and let's take a look at these Psalms today. All right, Mr. Upton, how you doing today?
Good.
You know, is it still a nice day up there?
It's still nice here.
Well, listen, let's get into this. Hey, hold a phone 1 second, Jason. Tanner,
Okay.
would you hit the timer, please?
Oh, yes. Sorry.
Oh my gosh, we've had all kind of technical difficulties here this morning, but I think we are fully squared away now. It was funny, just for our viewers, we actually recorded this episode a few moments ago, but we were having major audio problems. So I could see Jason talking, but I couldn't hear him. And I'm just nodding my head the whole time, praying that the audio was coming through, but it didn't come through. But so we're going to try this again, my friend. This is take 2 of episode 159. So
Yeah.
let's talk Psalm 40 here, verses
Yeah,
1 through 4. I want to read them, those first 4 verses. I waited patiently for the Lord. He turned to me and he heard my cry. He lifted me up out of the slimy pit, out of the mud and the mire. He set my feet on a rock and gave me a firm place to stand, put a new song in my mouth, a hymn of praise to our God. Many will see and fear the Lord and put their trust in him. Blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, who does not look to the proud, to those who turn aside to false gods. So we're looking at how we can see the Psalms in Jesus' life and just examining one question basically each day. And the question for today, as we look at those first 4 verses of Psalm 40, is this: how did Jesus exemplify patient trust in God amid suffering? And how can we do the same? Thoughts on that, Mr. Upton?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, Thomas Merton said this so beautifully. He said in his book, No Man is an Island, I think it was. He said, to believe in God, no, I'm sorry, to believe in suffering is pride. But to believe in God, to trust in God in the midst of suffering, that's humility. To believe in suffering is pride, but to believe in God, to trust in God in the midst of suffering, that's humility. And I think there's some form of suffering or labor, and there's camps, within the church, right, that some form of suffering or labor is important for experiencing anything that's worthwhile, anything that's pleasurable. I was reading this last week from John Beer's book on becoming human, and he says, Saint Maximus said, pleasure without undergoing any prior labor or suffering culminates in pain. And so it's it's like the way you are when the art that is a part of your cooking and the way you cook and make things. There's always a bit of labor and suffering, if you will, that culminates in incredible pleasure and I think that's the way it is with almost everything, whether it's our worship or God's after the activity of our worship, the following of our lives, not so much just the expression. And I think sometimes what happens, we get this with later on in this psalm: sacrifice and meal offerings you've not desired, God. My ears you've opened. Burnt offering and sin offering you have not required. I mean, that's a statement, actually.
Oh yeah.
We kind of blow these big statements off, but these are, I delight to do your will, oh my God. Your law, it's not just something in my head. It's not information anymore. It's in my heart
Yeah.
because I've activated, the ultimate act of worship is trusting. And so, you know, to have no labor. I mean, I think that is sometimes the issue with some of our worship. What I always say to people is we want to in the body of Christ and in our own worship teams, in church, you want to get we the model we want to use is, and I learned this from Heschel actually, strangely, is we want to get the activity of our worship into our expression. And when activity of worship and following gets into our expression, oh, that expression, it's limitless, right? But we put a cap on our worship when expression becomes the actual worship, and we're singing things that we don't even intend to live out. So what we need to always do is get the activity into our expression, and then whatever we express on a Sunday morning, we get back into the activity of our lives. And so what is that? That we've put our feet to the pavement on this stuff, that we're acting it out, that we're living it out, that and that's what Kierkegaard, 170 years ago or so was dealing with when he was trying to reform the Danish Lutheran Church. He would say, when Jesus walked the face of the earth, it was a difficult thing to become a follower of Jesus. It was actually an easy thing to understand it. And now he says, we've made it the opposite of that. This was 170 years ago or so. Now we've made it that it's an easy thing. There's no suffering. There's no labor. It's an easy thing to become a follower of Jesus. It is a difficult thing to understand it. You just say the prayer and you become a follower of Jesus. No, with Jesus it was, I'm coming, I'm going to walk among you, and I'm going to call to myself those that I want, so that you can come and be with me and that you can follow me, for me, grow with me. And we're going to go into the slow food, if you will, like the way you are. I know that's your language. It's like into slow food versus fast food mode. I'm gonna teach you that this takes time. And yeah, if you're only the diner, if you're only the person that's dining, and you're never the cook, no, that's not the way worship works with Jesus. Everyone gets in the kitchen. Everyone learns how to cut. Everyone learns how to, it's like a good family. Everybody learns the process, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think learning, and I think we have two, we have two kind of things going on in the church. It's like some people, the reason I'm not Catholic, but the reason I love a lot of Catholic liturgy is it's pregnant with creativity and life and flow, and so I'm always just trying to practition anything that I'm learning. And if we could, when I go into my evangelical church, it's like the goal is that, what's the goal every Sunday? The goal is that becomes a practicing place Sunday after Sunday for the activity of our worshiping lives on the streets where we live, and so that's not the end, expressing something on a Sunday morning in an hour. That's just it. We should go there with the mentality of, I want to be stretched in a new way. I want to learn something new in my life with Jesus so that I can practice it all week long. And so that becomes a goal, because if just Christianity in the world today if just Christians, we don't have to get any more people saved, right? Or all this, whatever your language is for that. If just Christians in the world today that profess to be believers would actively live out everything that we sing on any given Sunday morning, the world would be transformed almost instantaneously.
100%.
Right. So I think, to believe in suffering, I don't necessarily know, but to ignore it, I would say to believe in suffering is pride. I think whenever you go to a church service and all you ever do is win in a church service and all you ever sing about is winning and you're always victorious and you never experience any pain, I think that's pride too.
Yeah,
And I think,
rings shallow.
yeah, but to believe in God in the midst of suffering, to continue to trust God in the midst of suffering. Oh, that's humility. And I think that needs to play out more in our worship. It's not just what I'm expressing to God. God's saying, okay, you've made 10 vows here on Sunday morning in your worship. I'm going to live my life for you and we're going to do this and we're going to, God's listening. And I think we see in this psalm, it's like, no, you don't show me that you trust me on what you say to me or on your burnt offerings or on your whatever that is in our world today. You show me, Jason, that you trust me. But when I ask to take your hand, I will not, I wrote this, my version of Psalm 40 was, I will not fear as I wait for the dawn. So I'm in the midst of the darkness in my life. I will not fear as I wait for the dawn if you keep on holding my hand. I mean, that's may that be the prayer of my heart every time the lights are turned out in my life.
Amen.
I will not fear as I wait for the dawn. So we're not trying to become people of who masochists. That's not the goal. But to deny that suffering is a part of life, that's pride. But to believe in suffering, and that's pride too, Merton says. But to trust and believe in God in the midst of it, oh, that's humility, and that's what we long for. Yeah.
I mean, I love how you're saying that, to not believe in the suffering. It's not that we're denying the existence of it. It's that we just don't believe in its power to hold us, to bind us, to so on, to keep us. And that's what I was saying. We're not denying the presence of the muddy well that Jeremiah is lowered down in. But it's the acknowledgement that Jeremiah says, I'm held by God and not by this clay, and I think that's amazing. The activity versus the experience. The whole time you were talking about that, I'm thinking of Jesus saying, you tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and yet you neglect the weightier matters of the law, love and justice and peace. And then he says, it's this next line that totally is what you're saying. You should have practiced the latter without denying the former. You should do both. It has to be an activity and an experience. He's not saying, you get rid of the one. No, it's all one process. And when we were talking earlier, that was one of the things that I was saying, that you've been through the birthing process 4 times with your wife. I've been through the birthing process 3 times with my wife. And you want to do something to stop that pain that they are going through, because as you're watching, I mean, you're helpless, and they obviously want that to be over, and yet there is a process that they go through, and then the moment the child is born, it's what Jesus says, the joy comes. But to try to compartmentalize one or the other and not seeing it as one full part as held by God is really the fullness of this psalm itself, because it begins with the pit and ends with it starts with pit and ends with praise, but to say that 1 through 4 is all that matters, or to say that, 5 through the end is all that matters, is also incomplete. It is the fullness of the psalm that reflects the fullness of life, the activity, the experience, and they have to have this kind of, synchronicity between them. So, anyways, powerful stuff, man. Powerful stuff.
Hey, if you don't, I told my daughter Lucy, if you don't, if you have, Jeremiah, right, from Peterson's book on that, run with horses. You've learned how to trust in God and to run with men, right? And in Jeremiah, if you can't learn how to run with men, how are you going to run with horses, right? You've learned well, Lucy, how to run with men. Now you're going to go out into the world and run with something bigger, run with horses, right?
Oh, it's amazing. So amazing. All right, boss. We're gonna bring this to a close here again today. Wonderful, wonderful discussion. Guys, we'll be back again tomorrow with another podcast here with our good friend Jason Upton. Tomorrow we'll be looking at Psalms 45 through 54. So join us tomorrow. God bless you guys. We'll see you then.